Greetings, everyone, and welcome to ACEDS Data Unmasked, streaming live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. My name is Mike Quartararo. I'm the president of ACEDS. Today, we will be joined shortly by Michael Cammack, vice president of IT and security at HaystackID. Michael's been in the industry for more than 20 years in IT and security roles. He now leads the IT and security controls team at Haystack. We're going to get into what that means in a little bit. But first, I should note that Haystack, of course, is a professional services organization that provides e-discovery, information governance, and cybersecurity services throughout the legal industry. You can visit HaystackID.com to learn more about their offerings. Haystack, of course, is also a valued partner of ACEDS, and we like to showcase what our partners are doing for the e-discovery community and talk a little bit with industry experts like Michael. To discuss some of the latest trends in the industry and learn about what Haystack has been up to. Let's get into it. Michael, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on ACEDS. I want to warn you and your viewers that my wife describes me as being incapable of answering a simple question with a simple answer. I tell stories, I wander, maybe a little embellishment here and there, but eventually I get to the point. So although the stories I tell, I may be the narrator, but I'm often not the hero of the story. The heroes are those who do the grinding hard work. At best, I nudge things in the right direction. So that's
I could not agree. I could not agree with you more. And don't worry, it's an open forum here. We like to have a conversation and talk a little bit about what's going on. Let's start, I think, with a little bit about you. For those who don't know, tell us a little bit about your career journey and how you found your way into e-discovery.
Oh, wow. Okay. So my career journey, I was in the, I'm gonna again, I've warned y'all. I was in the Air Force out of college, and even back then, I was a security troublemaker. In school, there, I would sit in class, and we would be in a secure area, and there would be a cipher lock on the door, and the instructor would give us the cipher key, and every student's head that would go down, and they write it on their book and walk out the door. I was a complainer. Now, keep in mind, that's years and years and years ago. We don't do that anymore. The lessons have been learned in the Air Force and the rest of the military. But again, went into banking when I got out of the Air Force. And there again, saw things where people were taking mortgage applications and leaving them on fax machines and going, nope. Yeah, we're going to lock these things down. You're going to have to log in and get those. Eventually, really didn't like banking for a number of reasons. And even though I was making pretty good money as a banker, drove my wife nuts and quit my job there, looked for a job. And the only thing I could find was a part-time temp job at a law firm called Briggs & Morgan in Minneapolis. Okay. My friends say I fall into things backwards. Happen to join that company, and within 2 weeks of being there, most of the people in the IT department above me were either fired or let go. There's kind of some political things going on between two people in the department, and all of a sudden I found myself as kind of an important cog in the wheel there at that firm. Within just 2 weeks, was put in charge of two things: their accounting system and their their document management system, which anybody in this business knows is a rather important role, going from, zero to that type of thing. So that's how I got into the business. Did several years at Briggs & Morgan, and then a friend of mine who I met at Briggs & Morgan went and was doing some consulting work, recommended me to go to Bowman & Brook, met some people there, and eventually became their IT director and chief information officer over a period of about 12 years. After my stint there, did a little bit of consulting at GM, and then a friend of mine, Laura Danielson, recommended me for this job at Night Owl Discovery, and then Night Owl was purchased by Haystack. So in a nutshell, that's my history.
That's awesome. A great path, and Thank you for everything you do. First of all, I know as a security leader, um, you you probably stay awake at night, wondering about the fundamentals of security. But you place a great um, premium on the importance of upholding security fundamentals. Could you share some of the key principles and your perspective on why companies sometimes overlook these fundamentals?
Sure. Okay. So the original core security principles is the CIA triad, or confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality basically comes down to access control. Integrity is preventing people and processes from corrupting or deleting your data. And when they do, being able to roll back time and bring it back. Availability is just making sure that people can get to it when they need to be able to get to it. To these, I personally add people, hardware, and software, because that's, you can do the other things right, but if you don't have the right people, you don't have the software and hardware up to date and patched, you're going to have problems. So that's kind of my personal triad. But I don't think that companies, quote, overlook these things. I think it's just that they find them hard. Let's take confidentiality, for example. A company goes and implements a perfect, and I mean perfect, role-based access. And then you go and meet with the people, you go meet with the operations team and go, okay, well, who needs access to what? And so you find out that the forensics team needs access to where the data is, because they've got to be able to put it there, right? And then the data intake people have to have access to it to unencapsulate and unencrypt and organize the data. And then the processing team needs access to it so that they can actually use their processing tools to to do their work. And then the production team needs access, and the delivery team needs access. And you just find out that everybody needs access. So, even though you have, quote, perfect role-based access, it pretty much boils down to everybody. So let's say we go and say, hey, let's divide things up by client groups. Okay, so you go with this group of people works for this client and this, these clients. But then you find out that the workloads have kind of shifted. This client group's giving you more work, and this is giving you less work. So now you've got to get everybody access to everything again. So really, it's not, it's not that people don't, they're not overlooking it. It's just really, really hard to do those. Now, call me strange, but I love privacy. Privacy was kind of my ticket in. There were convergence of a number of things, but privacy was one of the key elements to some of our great successes, or I believe great successes. Confidentiality is the who. Privacy is the why and when people get access. All the people I was naming before absolutely need access to the data, but they need access to the data for a defined period of time. And that's what makes the difference. We have a job tracking. We at Haystack have a job tracking system that tracks every bit of data. But more than that, it grants access to the data as people's jobs go across the job board and the different people are using it. When they need access, they get access to the data. And when their job is done and QC process has happened and it moves to the next stage, they don't have access anymore. You limit it not just to the who, but to the when. Moreover, it automates things where it's moving things around with the automation tools. And so you reduce and remove human touch points, which just removes human errors, because we're the most variable thing in that whole process. I just want to tell you, though, this wasn't an easy fix. This wasn't a magic bullet. It was an 11-year journey. I still have my first PowerPoint where I pitched the concept of job-based volumes. And anybody who's known me for a long period of time, it's kind of a laughing point where people are just going, "Are you pushing job-based volumes again?" But we finally achieved it. So,
Well, that's fantastic. And I imagine amongst the team that my guess is geographically dispersed, and everybody has different roles and needs. I imagine that's kind of critical. But and you kind of answered my next question, which was about the ethos at Haystack. I think you've sort of implicitly said what that ethos is. But how do you ensure that employees are invested in this? It's one thing for you as a security leader to sort of push that policy down, but how do you get the workers to invest in the security and safety and integrity of data?
Great question. Okay. I'm going to tell you it's, basically three, I have three pillars. Okay. The first one is QIEs. And I'll tell you a little about those a little later. I've warned you, I ramble. Ownership. Okay. And then, I put these things together is routine, listening, and engagement. Okay. That to me is a package. Quality improvement events. That's a brainchild of Dean Anderson, both a friend and a great coworker. He and I came from Night Owl. And at Night Owl, my team built the factory and his team ran it. Okay. And quality improvement events was his idea to create a place where we could non-defensively review events and then figure out ownership and how to solve those problems. And that produced, the consistency and the goodwill and that type of thing to solve problems. And we got good at it, doing those kind of things. And then I'm going to talk about what Haystack was. And we were basically focused on large corporations with clients insistent upon process consistency. That's what they wanted. They wanted us to do exactly the same thing with their data every single time. And they didn't want to have to explain it to us over and over again.
Okay. You are in the legal business after all. So.
I am, exactly. So, those large corporations wanted that processing consistency, and that lent us to get into automation of being able to take those processes and do that. And again, to take the human factor out of it. Nuix is a great tool, but as anybody's ever used it, at least in the world where I learned it, the features were sticky. If you didn't go and change every single setting where you were doing things, it ran what you did last time. Now that'd be good if you only had one client, but if you're manually doing these things, and you forgot to do one, you've just done the job wrong. Okay. Type of thing. So having that automation, and again, I don't claim any credit for doing the automation stuff. Smarter people than I made that happen. But okay, that's who we were. Haystack consisted, before we were purchased by them, a world-class forensics team, white glove processing and client services team, people who were very focused on doing the subtle things that a law firm needs in this particular case, in that particular case. They were very good at that white glove service. And they were pioneers in the remote review and reviewer recruiting. That's what they were. And so when we were brought in, we brought in some of the things that I think made things good for us. One of them was the QIEs. And, again, it started out with Dean and I doing that, and then bringing in some of their client services people and things like that, and grew it. And we modeled the behavior of constructive problem solving. And they went and said, hey, let's do it too. They joined in. And then we brought in more and more and more. And that's really how we got the culture of looking at a event that something went wrong and looking at how we can use this to learn to not do that again. Just applying lessons learned. The next part of the story for me is ownership. And again, one of the things that Night Owl brought to the Haystack story was the fact that we had a long record of SOC certifications. And again, we had that client base of large, the large corporate clients, and they wanted that. Okay, that was insistent. They would just, they required it. So, when we were purchased and things like that, at this point in time, we made it clear that, and I want to make it clear that while Night Owl was, I guess, in the lead of certifications, there were many areas where Haystack was doing security better. One of them, for example, was user creation. They had a fabulous, when we came in, and still do, but had a fabulous user automation and creation system because of their background, bringing in reviewers and being able to make them just really, really rapidly, and then terminating them at the end of the jobs. So again, we were just looking at the synergies. What did each group bring? Again, one of the things that Haystack brought was the fact that we were really good at getting the certifications. Well, we were at the preparation time to do this, and I met with each of the departments to give them examples of, this is what evidence is going to be asked for, and this type of thing. And for those who asked for it, I did mock interviews for them, so they understood what it was going to be like to be interviewed by the auditors and playing that role-playing type of thing. Brought in Paul Rome and his team of QuickBase experts. QuickBase is the tool that we use at Haystack as kind of our, I think it's called the ERPM, basically the our enterprise resource thing. That's what we use. And he and his team, again, also listened to these things and said, okay, how can we make adjustments to the job board to start tracking the things that we're going to need for evidence? So, just getting that built in where the leadership of that department, kind of described what they did and how they did it and how they interacted and how we could come up with the evidence being made there. So we were concentrating on the transitions because, again, from the night owl world, we didn't have a forensics team. We didn't have a managed review team. We didn't have a team that was going and doing recruiting. So we basically had to look at the interchanges between how the data moved through the system, creating that document processing flow and all that kind of thing. And it got to the point where we were looking at that going, not that any of what they were doing wasn't good. It was, okay, but there were so many things we had to, spot check, that we made an executive decision, not me, but the company made an executive decision and said, okay, we've got to keep the firewalls up between night owl stuff, because we didn't think we were going to be able to pass this first go round, and had to create a plan to do this. So basically, there's two types of SOCs. There's a SOC type 1 and a SOC 2 type 1 and a SOC 2 type 2. A SOC 2 type 2 is a movie. It's, are you doing this right over a period of time? A SOC type 1 is a snapshot. Is it, do you have all the pieces, parts in place now? So what we did was we worked together with the folks and created good relationships and good working, listening and working together and all that kind of stuff. Created a way we made sure we felt that we got that snapshot right. And we did, in my practice ones, we went, yeah, okay, we're going to pass this. We brought in the real SOC auditors. They did that. I did mine at about 45 days, called the ball, said, yeah, we're going to be able to do this. The SOC auditors came in, they did it. And at that point, we ripped the Band-Aid off and broke down the firewalls between Night Owl and Haystack. And then we set a 90-day window, which is the shortest period you can do for a SOC 2 type 2, by the way. So we set that 90-day window to say, okay, we're going to make sure we've got all the evidence here. We're going to bring in the real auditors, and did that. Now, if you want to know, that was for all the marbles, right? So we'd mess up. We're no longer, we can no longer live on the night owl stuff. We're done. Okay. So this is for all the marbles, and everybody knew it. That is how you create ownership, because we involved all these people and everybody knew that if theirs didn't go, we didn't go. That's how you get. Go ahead.
Good lesson. Good lesson. And I think most people are familiar with SOC 1, SOC 2. I think you've recently achieved High Trust R2. What can you tell listeners about that certification, and what it means to the company, to your clients, and of course the industry?
Sure. Well, I will tell you, we went on a journey. Again, we started with a SOC, gone through all those controls. But the thing about a SOC is that, yes, they have defined controls, but they're flexible in how you actually achieve the different things. They're a description of what you need to achieve with that control. And how you do that is really up to you, your processes and the way your corporation's designed and how you do things. It's very, very flexible. So what we did in this journey to the journey to the high trust is we focused next on the ISO 27001. And again, in comparison to the SOC, it's very prescriptive. You got the ISO 27002. It's got the controls. They say what you need to do, exactly what you need to do. And so that was our introduction into going from the, hey, you just have to get security done right the way you do for your company, to this is what security done right means as an industry standard type of thing.
So more rigid, would you say, high trust?
Oh, far, far more rigid. It's very, very prescriptive. But we'll go on with the story here. And then many of our clients are in the healthcare industry, and they were pushing us for proving we were HIPAA. It's like, I'm going, okay, I can tell you we are. HIPAA was a very vague, very generalized set of laws. And it was like, yeah, it was mostly about goodwill and trying hard type of thing. That's not what high trust is. High trust is not, oh, you show you've got goodwill and you're trying hard. High trust is a comprehensive framework, and I mean comprehensive. They pull from HIPAA, they pull from NIST, they pull from ISO, they pull from anybody who's written out stuff. I mean, there is nothing that they do not cover, and they have every single control. And if I said that the ISO 27001 is prescriptive, well, then high trust is hyper prescriptive. I mean, it is literally to the point of we rewrote many of our we basically rewrote many or most of our policies just to make sure we were using the language that high trust required. It's not just, well, we're saying the same thing here. If you don't have the words that they're looking for, or at least convinced close enough, you don't pass. It's just that simple, So I mean, it is really, really prescriptive. The other side of things is it is rigorous to the near point of exhaustion. I will tell you that we collected probably twice as much evidence and more detailed evidence for the high trust than we've ever done for the SOC and ISO combined. I mean, it is just really, really, really detailed.
Similar audits, Michael, like SOC?
Very, very similar, but where a SOC and the ISOs do samples, basically, when you're talking about high trust, it's, I mean, it's not a sample of 5%. It's a sample of 50% of your type of this type of thing. It's just a lot of, it's not just that overall it looks like you're doing this right from a few samples. You better be doing it right consistently all the time. The other thing is that the evidence must stand on its own. That's another big difference. There is a outside third-party auditor who comes in and does that. They've got to be qualified to do those kind of audits, but it's assessed by the High Trust Alliance. And you don't get to ask them questions, and you don't get to give them explanations, and they don't ask for explanations. If you say this is proving this particular control, if they don't see it, you don't get to explain how it does. So, that's a very, very distinct difference between those. Did I answer your question?
You did. You're fine. And I want to shift a little bit to something I think that's a little more closer to personal than sort of talking shop here.
Okay.
It's my understanding you're nominated for a Relativity Security Innovation Award. Congratulations on that. What does that mean to you?
Well, I will tell you. Okay. It means a lot. I mean, being recognized for anything in this world is a good thing. But I will tell you, for me, I'm going to say it was surprise. My reaction to, hey, being nominated and not being nominated, because that's the marketing department, but being put in as a finalist, where other people are going.
I was going to say, not just nominated, a finalist.
Yeah. So, I mean, being nominated is, hey, the marketing department did what they're supposed to do. being a finalist means somebody actually looked at what we said and what I did and said, yeah, it's innovative. I will say I was surprised. I mean, my boss, Evan Craighead, our CTO, he's innovative. Okay. Adam Waite, my AD engineer, he's innovative. They are regularly coming up with leading edge solutions. Okay. My contribution is I'm listening to the business to understand their pain points and going, hey, that one they're talking about, that's going to solve a pain point. That's going to fix this. Okay. That's my role. That's what I do. Okay. And again, let's give a hardcore example here. Haystack, again, was a early pioneer of remote review years before COVID happened. They set up systems to ensure DLP with multiple layers of different systems that required authentications and things like authentication here and there. Review attorneys, in the main, there are exceptions, lots of exceptions, are not technically savvy. Okay. And to be frank, why should they have to log into this and then that, and then change the password here and change your password there, and then MFA everywhere? Okay. I'm just telling you, I mean, from their point of view, when I actually dug in the details, I'm going, I can understand the frustration and I can understand why we have help desk tickets on this type of thing. And so what we did, or, again, I put that in the back of my head and go, that's a problem I've got to solve. We are currently building a very specialized environment for breach response. And by the way, we're really good at breach response. Just putting in a plug for us right there. Well, in that environment, we paid a lot of mind to making sure that logging in and authentication and all kind of things like that, it's SSO. It's smooth. It's you do it once. You log in once, you change your password once, you set up your MFA, boom, you're done. And that's it. And it's pretty easy type of thing. Much different than the experience that our remote reviewers have been experiencing for years. Well, my limited contribution in this story is I asked my smart engineers and said, hey, can we reverse engineer? Can we take what we've learned in building this new environment and apply it here? Okay. And after a few days, they came back and said, yeah, we can do that. I said, well, how much? They said, all of it. Going all of it? They said, yep, they can. But it's going to require these changes. And we're going to have to change the way we teach people. We're going to have to do this and it's like that. And going, okay, well, that's now back to my role. The smart people went and did the hard work. Now I got to go and, now I have to go and get this sold to the business and help them understand why this is a good idea. Each Friday at T, our help desk manager meets with the review leadership, and we discuss, the issues that people are having and scaling. How many seats are we going to be filling, that type of thing. And I pop into these meetings from time to time. Well, I popped into the next meeting after we, come up with the, hey, I think I can fix this thing. And I'm just listening. And then they come up with, they're talking about this small review with a known, very low stress client. And I go, hey, got this idea, really like to do this pilot. Can we try this? I think it'll probably cut down tickets by maybe 20, 30%, something like that. And they agreed. They said, okay, go ahead. I will have to tell you, this was the shortest lived pilot I have ever seen. We did this pilot, and within 2 days, the review leadership were going, we want it everywhere, across the board, do it now. From their point of view, this was night and day. They basically said, this is the best thing we've done for them in an entire year. That was it.
What a great story. What a great story. Always happy when end users are happy, right?
Yep.
Listen, we spend a lot of time, talking shop, and I like to humanize things a little bit. It is my understanding that you fancy yourself a bit of an amateur brewmaster.
That is true.
How do you get involved in something like that, and how, if at all, does that relate to sort of what you do for your day job?
Okay, so I love beer, particularly good beer. Back when I was in college, and that was a long time ago, I literally made my mattress out of cases of Chimay Ale. Okay, so today lots of people know of Chimay Ale. I guarantee you, back in the day when I was drinking Chimay Ale, there was not this huge cadre of people who knew about what it was. got a friend named Stephen Gingrich, who he is an amateur brewmaster. I don't know what the right word is. Maybe a brew, amateur or whatever. But he's a true master. Well, he invited me over to brew some beer, and I was hooked. Okay, and since my kids say, and it's very true, I've got more money than sense. I went and set myself up a SIP, stainless steel brewing system with heating and cooling fermenters and all the kind of stuff. It's got all the bells and whistles. And then my son-in-law, who, by the way, is the best son-in-law ever, made me a keezer. So we can actually, and he's an engineer, okay? And so we made the system so that we can actually move beer from the brew kettle into the fermenter, and then through the carbonator into kegs without ever touching air. So, I mean, it's an amazing system. And again,
sounds like a security system.
It does. So those are the good things. I mean, we are protecting things from air, from the bad guys getting in, type of thing. The best beers I've ever made, I make a really good triple Carmelite knockoff. My favorite beer is Keurig's, quickly followed by Saisons. Those are the kind of things I do. And just like gambling, okay, the devil lets you do your first round, maybe your second round, third round pretty well. And that's my luck with beers, so I go do one, and the first one's just not, out of this world good. And the second time it's pretty good. And the third time it's like, so I shift around what I brew from time to time. But you asked how that relates to security. I'm going to go, well, you can, for those of you who do brewing and things like that, you probably realize that I play pretty close to the edge. I use, wild yeast, and I do kettle sours and things like that. I play too close to the edge to have any good lessons for security, other than you were right. I'm keeping the air out. So
that's fine. All right, listen, we're almost out of time. But before we go, I always like to ask what you've got coming up that's interesting, industry event, new announcement. Can we get a scoop? What are you excited about?
Well, I will tell you, I'm excited about kind of a transition that we're doing. The company, as a business, has made a decision that we are moving from a very data center centric world, where pretty much we were. And again, a lot of it had to do with, at least the night owl world, the client base of corporations. And what I always laughed at and what thought was very, very funny is these corporations would have data in the cloud. They would say, their security teams would say, I want to know what's in a data center. I want to be able to walk to the cage. I want to be able to put my hand on the sand and say, that's where my data is. I'm going, okay, we can do that. So we were very, very data center centric as a company. And today, because, again, the security people on their side are actually realizing most of the data is already in the cloud, we are moving in that direction. So that's really the big story for us is making that move at this point in time.
Yeah, and that's critical. I think the whole world ends up there eventually, right?
Yeah.
All right, this has been great, Michael. Thank you so much for making time for us today. How can folks reach you if they want to?
I will start paying attention to my LinkedIn. I get lots of people pinging me about that, so I will first update my LinkedIn. I'm sure I probably haven't done it in years. And second of all, if you ask for a contact on that, I will say yes, and then we can get together and talk and trade war stories. Because
Awesome.
again, I like to learn from other people too. So
Awesome, great. Again, thanks for making time for us today, everyone. If you are interested in our short form video interviews like this one, you can find Data Unmasked and our We Are ACEDS live streams on your LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook feeds, or you can check out the ACEDS YouTube channel for previous interviews we've conducted. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Have a great day and be kind to one another.
thank you.